Okay, I've got all the pieces to the basic dungeon here, and I'm going to undercoat them in white. And here I've got my, this is white house paint, and I'm not even going to bother to dilute it. Sometimes you thin it so it'll go on better, but in this particular case, it's not really going to matter too much, because if there is any places that I miss with putting the paint on, then stain is going to go in those cracks, and it won't really make any difference. So what you want to do is you just want to hit every surface with the paint really well. And you'll notice that I'm wearing a rubber glove on my left hand that's holding this piece, because otherwise you will get paint all over your hands. And just, try to get it in as good as you can. Like I said, the stain, if you miss a little spot in a crack, the stain is going to go down in that crack. I usually find the best way to do this is to hold it top to bottom like this in your hand, and that way you can get the sides, and then after you get the front side you can flip it over and get the back side, and then when you're about done you can set it down, and then the place that's left, that where your thumbprint was, you can just hit down from the top with it setting on the table. And I've got all my drips wiped up from the bottom part. So be sure that you've got all your drips wiped up, and then finally at the end just set it down on the table, and where your thumb was, be sure that you get that area right there. Now if you cast yours out of white plaster or white dental stone, you're going to have a little bit harder time undercoating it in white. You will still need to put an undercoat of white paint on it, because otherwise the stain is going to suck right into the plaster or the dental stone, and it won't do what it's supposed to do. So you have to have a coat of white paint. All I can tell you is probably just do it systematically, because you're painting white on white and you won't really know where you've been. So just do all of the front sides well, and then do all the sides, and then do all the back, and then do all the tops. And that way you'll remember. Also, when you're doing this, be sure to do some extra tests. I've got some extra little pieces here, and even though I know the exact formula that I'm going to use, and I've tested it, I'm still doing a couple of test wall sections right before I put it on my wall. Because, you spend so much time making this, and you don't want to mess it up in the painting stage. So always do at least a couple more wall tests to do right before you paint it on your actual dungeon pieces. Another thing to keep in mind when designing your dungeon wall sections, whenever you do something that's not following my plan, if you have long skinny sections, keep in mind that you're going to have to handle them and paint them. So that's why on this long section I went ahead and braced it up in the center like this, because originally I just had a strip of blocks, but a lot of times when you're painting, that strip of blocks will fall apart. So since you're going to be handling separate strips like this, be sure that you do it in such a way that you'll be able to pick up and handle a strip and paint it without it falling apart. The same way goes with like these big sections right here. I designed those with arches over the top, because if they were only wall sections with thin pieces bridging between them, it might have fallen apart on me. The same way with these doorway sections. I went ahead on top of the doorways, I went ahead and put some additional pieces up here, so that when you're doing the top of the doorway, I can handle this without it falling apart.